Well, Mary Kohlberg. Yeah, I got your email. You said later. Is this later? No, we have something else to talk about too. I know.
How about next week? This is a horrible, horrible, horrible week. So
Oh, no.
that's all right. We'll get through it. Anyway, don't worry about it.
You
I just-
sure?
How do I get rid of, right on top of your forehead, it says this meeting is being recorded.
It should go away.
Okay,
That's just to let you know that it is being recorded. so,
okay.
yeah.
And I need to get my gallery up here somewhere.
Okay. And Pauline keeps coming and going. Mhm. Oh, and Lainey, there was something I was going to ask you about. Now it's disappeared. So it'll surface later, I'm sure.
Yep. If you think of it, you can always just email or text
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep, will do. So Julie came through surgery okay. She's feeling pretty good as long as she's under drug therapy.
Yeah.
She had frontal and back, whatever that's called, incisions,
Ooh.
both sides. So no matter what she does, she's got pain.
Yeah, that is.
But she's
that's
dealing
so
with
rough.
it, and she's beginning to communicate a little bit.
Good. Glad you've heard from her at least to know she's okay. And yeah, like it's so funny because when you go through that, like your body just needs to sleep and rest. But then when you have that kind of surgery, it's like then you can't find a comfortable position to stay in.
Oh. Okay, I asked my granddaughter about cosmetic brands that she and her friend, she's 19, what she uses, because this was part of the sponsorship business where Mary, we're going to send out another survey, so you have to get ready to answer it. But
I can handle it.
we need just a little, we have to dig a little deeper. We didn't know. So now we're going to ask a few more questions. And I thought, okay, I know the cosmetic brands that I see and that I know, but what about younger people? Because you see all these strange brands. So she sent me 3 names of things that I've never heard of. It's going to be fine. So we have Diana. Is that Diana May? Yes, it is. Figured you'd be here. Okay, you're gonna be big time with this. It's 7:56 in my world, which is 6:56 in your world.
Yes.
Hey,
absolutely.
Bev. Hi, Bev. She's not talking to me yet.
Joyce,
was
my
with-
little sign has not gone off. It covers up.
I don't know why.
It says
Um,
lead meeting continue. Maybe I should hit continue.
Continue. Say continue.
Oh, hello.
Okay. Hey, Bev.
Hi, Joyce.
How's your husband?
Good.
Okay. How's his English lessons?
They're great.
You'll have to tell him I asked.
I
Good
will.
to see you. Bev and I were together for coffee a week ago tomorrow.
Yes.
A week ago tomorrow. Yeah, that was fun. Very good meeting. I can't tell you how much I learned and how much I sat down with Judy Swift after the meeting and had her explain things to me, some things. I thought, I've never lived in a really small town in the Midwest. So we talked through some of the feelings and perspective of some of the people there, and it was great. It was very helpful. Hi, Mary Jo.
Hi, Joyce. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to see you.
You too.
And Sandra, how are you? Or maybe I should ask, where are you?
I think your mic is muted.
Probably.
Yeah, could be. It's probably not just cycled through and connected yet. Or sometimes I'll have my earbuds plugged in and then forget to put them on and I think, oh no, everything's wrong. And it's like, no, it's not wrong. You're not listening. Well, look who's here. There's a Beth Townsend. Hi, Beth. Is the
Hello.
cat going to come to the meeting tonight? Oh,
Pretty sure.
okay. Beth has a cat that usually parades when we have a Zoom meeting. We have she's in my chapter. I'm in her chapter, actually. I'm in her chapter.
Yeah.
And we have meetings and the cat goes back and forth.
They rarely disappoint.
Right. Oh, I don't know what's going on with Pauline. She's having trouble getting stabilized, I have a feeling.
Joyce,
Yeah.
do you recognize my name better now?
Yes, it's much easier now.
I had you for my ham radio group. It was my,
Oh, your
now
handle.
I'm in the,
Yeah,
Right.
okay. That's much better. Yeah, I should probably change mine. I logged in through the main panel so that I could be sure to record. Sometimes it won't let me record if I'm not connected to the main event. Pauline, are you here for sure now? No.
Oh.
Okay,
Hi,
Hi, Barb.
Pauline.
good to see you.
Pauline, can you hear me?
Barely. Can you hear
Oh.
me?
We can hear
Yes.
you.
It's Mary Jo.
I have no sound.
Oh,
You want to turn up the, is it?
It
is the
sounds like you're
volume?
all whispering.
There should be a volume control somewhere on your keyboard or on the.
Volume is all the way up.
Oh, wow. Well, we can hear you. You'll have to read our lips.
I
That's
guess
all I can
so.
think of.
I'm gonna keep playing with it.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Kathy.
Hello,
Welcome.
thank you.
Things are good in Arizona?
They are, yes.
Great pictures that were posted on Facebook. If you all haven't been to Facebook recently, check out all the great pictures from the convention. And I say that proudly and somewhat pompously because I was in one of the pictures.
so Joyce, I understand you're coming to the Iowa State Convention.
I will be at the Iowa State Convention. Yes, I have
Good.
made my reservations. I'm all set. I have to polish up my presentation.
Good.
Yep, yep. Yep,
Good
that'll
evening,
be
ladies.
fun.
Hello, this is, I'm sorry, this is Cynthia, Arizona. Chapter
Hi,
Q.
Cynthia. Are you
Hello.
calling in? Are you
I am
calling in or are you
That's what it-
gonna?
No, I just called in. That's what my phone allowed me to do today, so we're gonna go with that.
Okay, all
I
right, that
use
sounds good.
artificial intelligence. Whatever it tells me to do, I try to do it.
Okay, very good. And
Good evening, Joyce. This is Adrena from Arizona, Chapter Q.
Hi, Adrena. I did record our meeting this morning and I will send out the link to that because I think you'll want to hear it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Joyce Rutherford Donner, hello. Joyce is in my chapter or I'm in her chapter. She's the treasurer, so I'm in her chapter. Okay, well, since it's kind of a smallish group, Lainey, how about if we do go around and have everyone introduce themselves? And I'll try to keep track because your pictures move and then I get confused. So you'll have to help me out a little bit.
Yes, and what I would love is in addition to saying, your first name, last name, what chapter you're from, I would love for you to also share, if you've had any experience getting an article in the media or getting media attention for either the work you've done for National Tri-T or professionally or for another organization, and kind of what's your comfort level with using media? Because that also helps me to know how to tailor my presentation.
Okay, that sounds good. Everybody up for that?
Yep.
All right. Well, I will start. I'm Joyce Radowski from OhioN in Cincinnati, and I've been writing articles about our chapter and getting them into the Cincinnati Enquirer online, through a share thing that they have, about every other month for the past little over a year. And it's gotten some recognition. I'm pretty comfortable with that process. Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Jo Messerly from Chapter FM in Anamosa, Iowa. I'm also the South Central Camp co-chair. I'm in a town of 5,000 to 6,000, so it's not too difficult to get stuff in our paper. Although I will say, as a Tri-T group, we haven't done a great job of it. I'm also in Friends of the Library. We get some of our stuff in, so I don't see a problem with getting some of our Tri-T stuff in. We just have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bev, you're sitting over there next to Mary Jo.
Hey, Bev Seeberger, Iowa EL, Osceola, Iowa. In years past, we probably have had some articles in the paper, but nothing recent at all. We're in a town of about 4,000 or 5,000. Our paper has gotten smaller all the time, so I don't know that it's taken, a lot of people don't subscribe to it anymore, I don't think. So.
Wow. Okay. We'll maybe talk about other media outlets.
Yes.
Okay. Pauline? Pauline, can you hear us, and can you? No? Okay. We'll come back because we can't hear you now. So we'll come back to that. Kathy?
Yes.
Kathy Hollis.
Yes, Kathy Hollis, Arizona Chapter P. I'm also the state organizer, one of them at least. We are going to have an article, actually a cover sheet in our Viva magazine. It's a community magazine here at Pebble Creek, and it's shown throughout the community. But we did get the cover for our 37th state convention. So we're going to take our photos on, I think it's Monday of next week. We have an article that's going to be in there about that. And we've done it before. So it is, it's a great way to be able to kind of continue to get our name out there.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Adrena.
Yes. I'm Adrena Alexander in Arizona, Chapter Q, and I am the fundraising chair. In the past, we have not had much media coverage, but this year is going to be different because we're doing a major golf tournament. So we are going to be in a couple newspapers about our event, which is going to be May 14th of this year here, held in Pebble Creek, where we live and where our chapter is located. In my past life, when I lived in Washington, D.C., I was with another organization. We were in Washington Post and other newspapers in Washington, D.C., because we were the largest luncheon in Washington, D.C. We host 1,700 people for a luncheon fashion show. And at that time, we celebrated for like 45 years. So, and I was a member for 18 years. So we've also had, I was able to get us coverage in a newspaper magazine out of Chicago, the Ebony magazine. We had a feature article, and that was in 1997. But we're looking forward to being more involved in the community, and which would attract more interested newspapers to write articles about what we're doing. So we're trying to add other activities through our fundraising.
Great, that sounds great. I'm gonna go up to Mary Kalberg.
Well, my name is Mary Kalberg. I'm a member of
Sorry.
Ohio N in Cincinnati, Joyce's chapter, or Joyce together. Anyway, I'm also chairman of the National Nominating Committee. So all of you out there, be thinking about what you can do to promote the nominating committee when you start seeing publications in in tidings eventually. Anyway, I personally have not had any contact with any of the local newspapers or anything like that. I will tell you that Joyce Radowski has done a fantastic job. And she has not only hit the local communities, but community papers, and that's quite a few of them. But to get it in the Cincinnati Enquirer is really covers a large area.
Yeah.
And like she said, she does it every couple of months, and it's just been wonderful. And she writes things so well anyway. But I think we've had more publicity because of that. And you know, that's as far as my experience with it, I have had zero.
It's okay. All right. Let's go over to Diana May in Nebraska.
Hi, I'm Diana May from Nebraska F in Lincoln. I'm a 56-year member and past national board member. The Lincoln Journal Star, in the 53 years that I've lived here, publishes zero as far as any organizations, community work, unless nationally known things like March of Dimes and Heart Association and so on and so forth. They just as a rule do not do service organizations. And so we have just never really pursued it unless you happen to have a major car show or something like that, that is not necessarily service related, but we just have no coverage here and no one that's really comfortable with attempting it at this point. I'm
Well,
sorry to
that's-
say.
At least you know your market. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Barb Corson.
Yes, yeah. Barb
Hi.
Corson from Chapter ES. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're from Waverly. We have never really done much media. In the past, I believe they have. We really do need to help get exposure to Tri-T in our area. We're up Northeast Iowa and we're just kind of limited. There's not a lot of groups around here. And so we're really hoping to, that's why I'm on tonight. See if I can get some information on how we can do that, use the things from the website and maybe get some exposure for our group too, so we can grow.
Sounds great. Beth Townsend in the middle there.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Beth Townsend. I'm currently the president of Ohio N. And since Joyce graciously writes things for our chapter, I don't have any experience with Tri-T, but I write articles for the church newsletter on a regular basis. And in a former life, I was on the Oak Park Advisory Council and was responsible for media coverage there. So I have some experience.
Hey, great. Let's come down to Joyce Rutherford Donner, the other Joyce.
Oh, we're doing all of Ohio in one big long
Yeah,
strip.
we might as well.
Okay,
We're
all right.
represented.
Well, Joyce sort of already introduced me. So my experience with this is kind of like Beth's. I had some experience at work when I had to do being interviewed by the news. So knowing what that is like and what they put in the paper from what you have said which can sometimes be helpful if you get in a situation where you have to do an interview with a reporter. And then I would write things as well. I've contributed and actually edited a newsletter for a company. What was the other thing I was supposed to say? I don't remember. Oh,
the
I know what it was
treasurer.
going to be. I think that we can, although, Joyce does a great job of getting the information into the Cincinnati Enquirer. Part of our girls come, our campers come from a little town called Lebanon, which is about 20 minutes north of Cincinnati, and that's where I live. And our local paper went defunct. So I understand the problem of not being really able to get it out to the neighborhood. People up here take the Cincinnati Enquirer to a certain extent, but a lot of them take the Dayton paper. So we are missing out on a bit of a market there, and we're kind of in a rough place on how we're going to go about trying to expand there. Because we're just a little bit too far south, so Dayton doesn't really see us as part of their market. But I know from walking the neighborhood, there's a lot of Dayton papers out there.
We need to get their attention then. Yeah.
Yes. And one thing else that we did find was that by doing some advertising about our farmers markets, that we did get a few people who contacted us to order our pecans. So not only did it get news out about Tri-T, but it also helped us with our fundraiser.
Mhm.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Sandra, and you are muted, so you know how to unmute, and we'd like to hear from you. Are you on your phone? Yeah, you're still. Let's see. We can't hear you, hon. We need to have you unmute. And I'm not sure that I can do that. But let me see.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't unmute people.
Yeah,
On our end.
unfortunately, yeah, I was hoping I had enough clout. Sandra, see what you can do with that. If you can hear us. You've now shut off your camera. The mute and unmute should be right next to the camera, should be nearby. And we'll go on to Sarah Howdeschelt and then come back. And Sarah, you're also muted right now.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Howdeschelt. I'm Ohio Chapter F. I really have no experience with publishing in the media. I mean, I do some other fundraiser, like, flyers and stuff for those fundraisers, but I don't. So that's my experience. Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. However, since you're closer to Dayton, maybe we have to talk sometime and see about coordinating the news in both of the areas. So that would be something to explore.
Yeah, I didn't realize, Joyce, you lived in Lebanon. And yeah.
We have Yep, something to think about. Cynthia, what can you add?
Oh, okay. Cynthia Bush, as I said earlier, AZ Chapter Q, and recent past president of Arizona State Board. We've been able to get articles in our Pebble Creek Post, which is our community paper. We have not, as a chapter, been in the Viva magazine, but our state organizers have been there for us. And in the independent paper. So we have 3 papers in the area that we have been in, thanks to our organizers and our corresponding secretaries in the 2 chapters locally. And that's all I can add as far as for IT in the past. As a school administrator, I've sent out newsletters and wrote articles for different activities at school, and that's about it.
Okay. Pauline, you've got your phone connected and we see your face. Can we hear you? And you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, and I'm gonna turn off my phone so I don't get feedback.
Okay.
I have done some publishing of when special things, chapters, initiation, campers, but I'm gonna do more. And on next Tuesday, I'm doing a radio interview.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. I'm so
Okay, I'm
pleased.
gonna have to put you back on. I'm gonna mute me.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that exciting? She knows somebody who has a radio show and is a member of her chapter. And so she's going to be interviewed about Tri-T on the radio show. So exciting. Sandra, any luck getting your unmuted? Oh. Tell you what, we're going to go on and start the program with Lainey. And if you get it unmuted, we want to hear from you. Okay? All right.
Definitely.
Lainey, it's all yours. Would you like all of us to mute at this point?
Yes, just so
be
that we
better?
don't end up getting feedback. I just don't want anyone to not be able to hear what I'm saying because of that. So,
Okay, we'll do that.
all right. So first of all, thank you guys all for being here tonight. And I just want to start off by saying I have been having the world's worst sinus infection. As Joyce will tell you, I've been sick for about 6 weeks now. So my voice is not what it always is, but I'm going to try to get through it with water. So apologies. I will try to talk as best I can. So tonight we're going to walk through engaging with the media and how to go about getting published. As many of you noted, charity events and charity groups are a dime a dozen, and they all want to get into the local newspaper or onto the local radio or any kind of attention that might, kind of help boost our attendance at fundraising events or improve our membership or whatever that might be. And so there's a lot of noise in the channel, and media publications have to be sort of select, specifically to make sure that they're matching what you have to offer with what their audience is seeking in terms of potential community engagement. So tonight I'm just going to walk you through some tips, and I know there's a combination. I love the fact that there's some people who've had some good luck and good experience with getting published. Then there's other people who are completely new to it. So hopefully something will appeal to every single one of you that really makes you think outside the box about how you're engaging. So I always want to start by grounding us on where we are and why we're doing it. And the end all of this is that the board laid out a strategic vision that centers around 3 pillars, which is chapter support, like these Let's Connect meetings, helping membership growth on the individual chapter level, and investing in marketing in order to enhance visibility in our local communities. So what I'm talking about tonight actually speaks to all 3 of those areas. And that's why we're doing this and why we're kind of talking about what we are. So when you go to start looking at building a media presence or a public relations presence, it really behooves you to start from a place of doing your research and preparing ahead of time so that you are able to capitalize on the opportunities that may present themselves. So I'm going to start today's presentation with kind of grounding us in how do you do the research? How do you identify the local media and figure out what you want to say and who their audiences are and that sort of thing? So first of all, public relations, even though it feels like, oh, that's somebody's job title or something, that's not something I can do. In fact, we all do public relations every day of our lives. Whether you're working or you're going and you speak to somebody about what you're doing for Tri-T, or you're chatting with the cashier across the grocery aisle, you're portraying who you are and what you are. And so public relations shouldn't be feared. It's just about your reputation and branding. And the thing is, National Tri-T has a wonderful brand. An organization is not around for 110 years without having a really important purpose and without having members that are really passionate about what that reputation is. At the end of the day, National Tri-T Society ensures that deserving underprivileged girls receive a once-in-a-lifetime summer camp experience. That's our mission. That's what we do. And so as members of the various chapters of Tri-T, you all are public relations officers. So I want you all to like leave this presentation knowing that you've been designated a public relations officer of the National Tri-T Society. All public relations is how you communicate that message and helping the local community to understand what it is that Tri-T does. And thankfully, it's a really simple, clear mission. And so that makes it a lot easier. Sometimes charity organizations can have almost too much to communicate or too many missions or too many different focuses. And that loses the attention of the community and it makes it so that the media doesn't want to work with you because they really need to get to the heart of things. There are lots of things that capture our attention. There's lots of competing priorities between social media as well as traditional media. And they know that they have to capture someone's attention within the first 5 seconds, or the person has flitted off and they've gone to something else that does capture their attention. So as charity organizations, we have to think about what it is that's going to capture a reader or a listener's attention and keep them so that they get that call to action from what it is that we're sharing out. The other thing that's really, I always try to emphasize is that media is just one tool by which you do public relations, but it is not the only tool. And of course, you guys have heard me talk, most of you, about social media, about building your local chapter, lots of different kind of topics. And so even though today's presentation is focused on media, remember that it's one tool in your arsenal of things that you can use. And I always emphasize that at the end of the day, there are things that public relations are, and there are things that public relations are not. And so I share this visual because I just love this photo. There's quite a few photos that Joyce and Julie and some of the other leadership have shared with me over the last few months, and that just express what it is that Tri-T does. And that is the sisterhood that is all of the adult members, as well as the sisterhood that forms from the girls that get to go to camp, you know, and the joy and the leadership skills that it brings. And so at the end of the day, that's what you are communicating to the media. And even if it isn't everyone's necessary charity cup of tea, it's a mission that people can really get behind because they feel good at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, when they support Tri-T, you want them left feeling good. So
Lainey, can we, I don't want to break in, but I believe Sandra has fixed her sound.
Oh,
Yes.
I hope so.
Oh, I hope so
Hi.
too. Yes, introduce yourself, please.
Sandra Schaff. I'm AG Kilcook, Iowa. We're in the southeast community or corner of Iowa. I'm historian. It's my first year, so I'm trying to learn how to get out there and get the public more interested in getting things in the paper.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
We
Thank
do
you.
have a member that is on the radio station, so she's this next week, I think, is doing an interview with our member to educate people more about what our program is. So hopefully we can
Very
get
good.
more people interested.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm glad we got to hear from you. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Lainey, it's up to you, and I'm going to mute
Yes.
again.
Yes. So, so good public relations adds credibility to your chapter activities. It increases awareness among the general public, and it helps you build your local brand so that when you mention to somebody, I'm a member of Tri-T chapter so-and-so, they're like, oh, that organization that sends girls to camp. At the end of the day, that's what they need to know. However, I always caution because I think sometimes there's this impression that, well, if I could just get on the local news, if I could just get in the local newspaper, if I could just have a podcast done about what our chapter is doing, if I could have those things, then everybody will flock to us. We'll have all kinds of new members. We'll have all kinds of new fundraisers. Unfortunately, media, again, is like just one tool within the arsenal of things that you can utilize. And it does not in any way replace peer-to-peer recruitment tactics. And that includes for new members or for participating in fundraising events or anything like that. And so back in the day when I was the leader of the National Promise Walk, I always reminded my local chairs that at the end of the day, people come to people. And so that's why I always positioned it as, you're a public relations officer, you're a brand ambassador, and you are the face of the organization to people who may not know about that organization. And so even though media can assist with that, and you can tell a good story and you can have a good call to action, it's never going to replace that personal connection that we all seek as human beings. It's also not going to solely drive participation in your chapter's activities. You have to have a multi-tier strategy in order to ensure that your message gets heard. So the first step in doing your research is understanding your audience and understanding who it is that you're seeking to know about, because there's also a bit of a bias to think like, oh, everyone needs to know about Tri-T. If we could just get, this paper that has a distribution of 300,000, then everybody would know what Tri-T was and everybody would give. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So you have to start with saying, okay, who do I want to know about my chapter? Is it women between the ages of 18 to 35? Because we have a membership that's aging and we really want to get some young ladies involved with our chapter. Is it women between the ages of 40 to 60? Because you already have a vibrant base in that group and you're looking for new members and new people to kind of bring some ideas and blood into the chapter. Are you looking for funders who could attend? I heard some great examples of this, the local car show, the local golf tournament, the local Mother's Day breakfast tea. And you want people to attend those events and to give to Tri-T. So that's a very specific audience. Do you need partners to help provide supplies for your campers as you get ready for the campership? If that's the case, then that's a very specific audience too. And probably isn't a call to action you would necessarily put in your local newspaper, but it might be a call to action you speak about at your local chamber event and say, we need backpacks for the 4 girls we're sending to camp, and encourage them to provide that. So, and then as well, public relations includes the relationships that you have with the schools, the YMCAs, the Girl Scouts, all the other entities that help you identify the young ladies that are applying for the camperships and are the ones who end up getting sent to summer camp. So again, that's another audience that may be a place where you want to focus some media attention. Maybe not. You might have good inroads and you have plenty of people, deserving young ladies who want to go to camp, but you might also think about, are there other places where we could advertise to, take applications and things like that. So once that's decided and you understand exactly who your audience is, then you have to ask yourself, what do you want them to do? As I mentioned before, it very much varies, but it probably falls along one of 3 themes for this organization specifically: join, donate, or apply. Those are the 3 main call to actions for what Tri-T does. Join as a member, donate to one of our fundraisers, or apply to be a camper. Plain and simple. And every press release you do, every media interview that you do needs to make sure that you include those action buzzwords, those call to actions that says exactly why it is that you are getting on the radio, or you are writing a press release, or you're publishing an article, or you're posting an ad, or whatever that might be. And it all boils down to what you want your audience to do. And so if it's an open call and you're wanting to develop your memberships, then all of your media attention focuses are on that call to action to join. And you don't necessarily want to mix and match, because at the end of the day, people only have limited time and limited attention. And if you say, oh, you could do this or this or this or this, you lose most people, because what they end up doing is nothing. And so you want to keep things very succinct, very short, very deliberate about understanding exactly what you want your audience to do. So the next piece is, once you know your audience, then you need to figure out, okay, what media engages that audience? Who reaches the people that you want to know about you? I'll give a great example. I obviously work in a maternal health space, and we had a big fundraising event that we did in Iowa. We had some relationships with John Deere tractors, and they had a newsletter that they offered to put an article in the newsletter for their company for our fundraising event. You might think, well, you know, the audience of John Deere employees is probably skewed more male than female, and, you know, do they care about maternal health? Da, 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 da. But what we did was we recognized that this was an opportunity that was presented to us, and we figured out what that audience needed to know. And what we really wanted that audience to do was to donate to our event, or to purchase a ticket to come to the event. And so that was the call to action we put in there. Register for this event, come out. And when they came to the event, then they heard about all the wonderful work that we were doing. And we had that call to action that said, everybody's got a mom. You know, many people have a wife. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, you should care about moms and babies. And so it's important to recognize that not all media is going to be right for your audience, but there are always opportunities if you have the right call to action and if something gets presented to you. So you likely aren't going to go after the hunting and fishing magazine for your local community that skews for men over 65. That's probably just not your target audience. You want to look for publications that are going to be aimed at women, particularly those between the ages of, I would say, 40 to 60. But that starts with understanding, as I think a couple of you mentioned, also knowing your community. So what publications do people read? What do they get to see? And so I'm actually going to hop out of my presentation for a minute to actually kind of demonstrate this in real life. So here in Melbourne, Florida, where I live, I actually ran our local Promise Walk. It's called the Space Coast Promise Walk. And the big newspaper here in Central Florida is called the Florida Today, and it's based out of Melbourne. It is a publication that, like most newspapers, has had greatly declining subscription rates, unfortunately for them. The newspaper industry is definitely one that has struggled in the digital age, but it continues to be something that a lot of people still get to their inboxes, especially people, you know, over the ages of 45 to 50. And so there is an audience for it. And so that's one place to think about putting in an advertisement in the community event calendar. We would have a local family who was called our mission family that kind of highlighted what it was our mission, what we were doing locally, how we were supporting local families. That could be a pitch that we would pitch to a traditional newspaper like Florida Today. Now, almost every community, and a couple of you sort of referenced this a little bit when you were talking about your local communities. Almost every town has a small publication of some sort. Maybe it's a magazine that comes out quarterly. Maybe it's a weekly, local newspaper. Maybe it is, there's these things, they call them vanity publications, but they're large media companies that print small magazines that are based around specific communities. So the one that's here locally, technically I live in Melbourne, but the suburb that I live in is called Viera. It's a planned community, and they have a publication called the Viera Voice. Viera Voice is way, way smaller than Florida Today, but they are a great target because the primary people who live in Viera are young families, people who work out at the Space Coast, and just basically it's even easier to get into the Viera Voice and to pitch a story to them than it actually is to the Florida Today. And it has more of an impact on a local event that's geared around families, moms and babies. So that being said, don't dismiss a local publication just because it's a little bit smaller. The Viera Voice comes once a week, and I read it religiously every time it comes to my inbox. So it hits younger markets as much as it does, kind of the older relatives. I hear a couple people. Can everybody be sure to mute their videos? I just hear a couple of people and background noise. And so I mentioned this. This is an example, Indy Atlantic Select. Indy Atlantic is a little beach community that's here in Brevard County. And this is one of those sort of vanity publications where it's really centered around just community events, restaurants, local businesses. And they're always looking for articles about things that are going on in the local community or things that local community members are doing. I almost think about it as like sort of the way that people snoop on their neighbors, because usually the feature piece is a local family and you get to tour their house and hear about what they're doing. And it's always some, financial planner or real estate agent or something like that, somebody who wants that. But this is a great target to think about for Tri-T because the work that you guys are doing in your local community is so important. And it's something that would be of interest to the community, especially in a specific community. So, using the example of, Lebanon or Dayton or that sort of thing, I'm sure that those communities have some publication like this. It's just a matter of finding it. As well, thinking outside the box. So one of the partnerships that we built for our Space Coast Promise Walk was with an organization called Fun for Space Coast Kids. And literally this website is just all the events and programs and classes and things that are centered around things that kids would enjoy here in Viera, Suntree, Merritt Island, Melbourne, all the different communities. And so again, you wouldn't think, oh, well, necessarily that's the right audience. But something like this could actually be a really good place for Tri-T, especially if you are looking to build some of that younger membership with younger women who may have families, may have careers, things like that, because they're probably looking for ways that they can engage with their child, and including your fundraising events or opportunities to come out and meet the community on the events calendar, asking them to do an article about what Tri-T is and why it wants members, that sort of thing. So this is just,
Lainey?
again, another example.
Lainey, at least what I'm seeing is your slideshow.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I wasn't sure if you said you were jumping out of that, but that's all that I
Yes.
see. I don't know. There we go.
So sorry. Thank you for bringing that to my attention,
I
Joyce.
should have sooner, but
Yeah, no worries. Yes, I was, so just to run you all through, I was talking about the Florida Today, which is the traditional newspaper. And many of you guys referenced that, but one of the like takeaways that I want for you guys to do is think outside the newspaper. As I mentioned, the Viera Voice, the Indy Atlantic Select, as just one example of many of these community publications, and then Fun for Space Coast Kids, which was the one I was just talking about. The other really great resource that I love and that we used a lot with our Promise Walk groups is a compilation called patch.com. And it's really awesome because literally you can just type in your zip code and it'll bring up local media that you might be interested in. So say I'm doing something in the Orlando market, and you can actually submit your events, you can submit articles, things like that directly to patch.com. And it just increases your media footprint, which again adds to that credibility. All right, now I'm going to go back to my presentation, and Joyce, if it give me a heads up if you are seeing my presentation.
It's fine.
All right, good. So the best place to start for this is just literally Googling for local media. Think TV, think radio, print publications, podcasts, blogs. I'm just challenging all of you, think outside newspapers. You know, I once, when I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a journalist. I interned at a local newspaper. It was a wonderful experience. But even in the early 2000s, I realized that newspapers were kind of, they would always have a niche place, but they did not have the distribution. They were starting to decline in a very significant way. And so we have to think of a multi-tier strategy. And so that includes thinking about radio interviews or podcast interviews, or even when I lived up in Northern California, working with your local TV station, especially in smaller communities. They're looking for some community fluff pieces alongside the mugshots and dire world, especially recently. So make sure that you put TV stations on your distribution list as well. Twitter is also a great place to search for blogs in your local community. So I just literally recommend you search Dayton blogs or Ohio mom blogs or Iowa mom blogs or things like that, specific keywords that help you to maybe identify some bloggers who might have a pretty significant following, but again, is thinking outside of that traditional. When you do work with a radio company or a newspaper or other print publication, make sure that you're targeting the appropriate reporter or column. So for organizations like National Tri-T, that's going to be your features writer, your local community calendar, your local community outreach person. It's kind of what I call like the C pages. Sometimes they're the B pages, but it's not always the front page news that kind of is from the Associated Press or the sports section or things like that. We wouldn't reach out and say, unless you were doing like a charity run, then maybe you might reach out to a sports. But for the most part, for example, the golf tournament would be one that maybe you would reach out to the sports writer. But for the most part, the work that we do for Tri-T is going to be kind of in that community features area of a newspaper or other publication. All right. So the next piece is developing what you want to say, developing your pitch. And I think sometimes people hear the word pitch and they kind of shy away because they're like, oh, that's, I'm selling something, I'm pitching something. It's not a bad word. It's just one tool that you're using to share your message in a really distinct way. So I want to reference again, there are so many good communication tools on the backside of the National Tri-T website, including these new resources that we've put together, including social media as an important platform. So just make sure that you are really familiar with the communication tools that are out there and utilize those that those resources for when you're communicating to the media. So one of the areas that I wanted to touch on this evening is really talking about what are the elements of good press release. I hear volunteers all the time who get very frustrated because they feel like they have wonderful news to share and they send it to a reporter and it goes nowhere. Or the reporter comes back and says, you know, we can't really publish this. So there's a few things that you can do that are just more likely to kind of get your press release seen. And so I'm actually going to share again, and a recent example. I worked with the team at Arizona Chapter J to put together a press release. And so I'm actually going to use this as a little bit of an example. I'll scroll in, make my points. So first of all, you always want to make sure that you have good contact information. The point person being someone who will respond quickly to email or phone or whatever you might want to say. Reporters have very limited time. They have lots of things that get pitched at them all the time. And they will not spend the time trying to track you down. If they reach out and you don't meet their deadline in responding, they will go on to the next story. That's just the nature of media. There's always something else going on there. So make sure that the person that you put on your press release or who is contact information if you're submitting a digital form or any type of press story is somebody who is like speedy about picking up the phone or answering emails or that sort of thing. It's not the person that you want to like spend, 3 days deliberating. You want to have a headline that really says specifically, deliberately, what it is you want them, what the news is about. So, for example, on this press release, Arizona Chapter J is going to be doing a public meet and greet at the Tucson Zoo on April 2nd. So the call to action for this press release is join us at the zoo. Come out between these hours. So within the first paragraph, you really want to make sure that you've clearly called out who the press release is about. So this is about National Tri-T Society Arizona Chapter J and why it is that you're kind of submitting this. We want people to be aware that we're sending girls to summer camp and that this is a way to engage people with the mission. Having a quote from somebody who is in the leadership of your chapter. So in this case, it's Karen Z. And then highlighting what it is that you want people to do. We want the public to come out and meet Chapter J and just basically between these hours come out. And we include just a little bit of history about the organization and what Chapter J has done in that time. And the final piece is making sure that you have that contact information so that if somebody, in this case, the call to action is join, we want them to contact Karen. And then we have this little boilerplate that just tells about what National Tri-T Society is. So you can see this is not a very long piece of article. It doesn't need to tell everything that there is to know about Chapter J. It doesn't need to tell everything there is to know about National Tri-T Society. What it needs to say is, we're going to be at the zoo on April 2nd from 9:30 to 11:30. We want to see you there. Now, the timing of this, as you know, so it's, a couple weeks away. Again, on something like that, you don't need a very long lead time. You don't want a long lead time because people are going to forget about it. But if you're doing some kind of fundraising event or something, you want to make sure that you're kind of ramping up your press about 2 weeks ahead of the event and really hitting it hard the week before the event. That's really when your press pieces are hitting. And the other piece is a picture says 1,000 words. Submit an image. If there is a possibility to have an image, whether that's people walking with their babies at a promise walk, or that is children singing at the local Chico Idol event, or that is girls wearing giant backpacks getting ready to go to summer camp, whatever that might be, put the imagery in, because that is really something that is going to enhance both your digital and your print media attention. Now, I want to be clear that a pitch is not your press release. Even as short as that press release example that I just showed you is, that is still too long for an email that I would send to a reporter to try to ask them to do a piece on Tri-T. If I wanted them to do a piece on Tri-T, I would want to make sure, first of all, that I find out how they like to be contacted. There are some reporters who, have a phone number. There's some that want to be tweeted at or direct messaged on their Facebook platform or Instagram platform. And then there's lots, and I should say lots, that, want a traditional email. However, they get a lot of emails. And so you want to do something that makes it stand out. And so that includes a really good subject line, which might be something like, 3 things the public needs to know about National Tri-T, or about local ladies sending girls to camp. Think like the reporter. At the end of the day, they need to know the 5 basics, which are who, what, where, when, why. And they need to know why they should care, why they should care about it, which includes understanding that audience. That's why I say start with your research, because if you know that this particular writer, their main reading demographic is 35 to 45-year-old women, you're going to pitch it in a very different way. You're going to say, young mom, moms of elementary and middle school age girls struggle to find activities that they can safely have their girls do. And National Tri-T tries to answer that by sending girls to summer camp and giving them a transformative life experience. If that's their audience, that's a great pitch to say, we're going to address something that is a problem that your readership maybe has. Keep it short. So the pitch should not be, as I mentioned, even the length of that very short press release. You want to tease it. You want to say that here's some dangling information. I can help provide you with more. I can answer your questions. And as I mentioned, using a great subject line. So this is something that I am happy to, if you're getting ready to pitch a story to your local media, or you just want somebody to look over what you're going to say, I am happy to do this and to help you just tweak it a little bit so that it really stands out and so that it can have more resonance than you may have had in the past. So at the end of the day, you want to cultivate long-term media contacts because they want to know that you're a reliable source. And so that includes making sure that you answer in a timely manner and that you always give them good information, that you know what you're talking about, that you can give it to them in a way that's succinct and easy for them to then translate into the articles that they're writing or the publications that they're making. Making sure you're accessible. As I mentioned, whoever your point of contact is within your chapter that's doing public relations, doing media, make sure it's the person who picks up the phone and not the one who lives, and I say this with great fondness, having lived in Northern California, not the one who lives up in the mountain and has no cell signal for half the day because they're standing on top of an iron deposit. Make sure it's somebody who's living in the valley. Respond promptly. As I mentioned, our attention span gets shorter and shorter as the years go on. I'm sure you guys have seen this with your campers, and the same is true of adults. So if by some account a media personality reaches out to you, respond promptly and always be kind of at the ready. And then the other thing is follow up with your media contacts in the off season. when you don't need them. And that might include following up and saying, oh, there was a really interesting article about this, or thank you again for, posting. So a great example is like, so imagine a scenario in which a reporter wrote an article about you sending girls to camp, and they posted that early on in the summer, as you were getting the girls ready to go. Follow up with them once the girls come back. Maybe you share photos from the return party. Maybe you share a couple photos of the girls at camp. Maybe you invite them to actually physically come out to a wrap-up event or to alumni event or something like that, so they can see the mission in action. It never hurts to just treat it like a relationship and really cultivate those media contacts in a way that lets them know that you are thinking about them outside of what they can just give to you. So the final thought that I want to leave you with is a challenge, which is to think outside the box. Don't just think that, oh, well, we need to get in the local newspaper, or, well, we don't really have a story that we can tell, because there's always a story out there, and people relate to people. And so if you focus the attention of your press release simply on facts and on the tangential things that are happening, you're not going to catch people's attention. What they really want to see is the difference that you're making. And at the heart of things, that's the girls that you're serving. And so writing and highlighting the work that you're doing in a way that addresses what the community is looking for, which is a little bit of hope and a little bit of light and a little bit of excitement over what it is that Tri-T does. And as always, I'm always available in any of these ways for you to reach out, run a press release by me, share a tidbit that worked for you, because the other thing that's been really wonderful is I've gotten emails from many members across different chapters, and I always pop those up to the board, and then we've used those to build other Let's Connect presentations. We've used them to highlight some of the good work that some of the chapters are doing, or even when there's questions, figuring out how do we address that? How do we provide a resource? So it's been wonderful getting to hear from you guys. And so if you want me to review a press release or think about a strategy, that's what I'm here to do. And that's one of the many reasons that the board has decided to make an investment in communications. So now what I'll do is I will stop sharing, and we'll go back to our grid view and open up for questions. I know we're right at time.
Mary Jo, were you asking a question? You were muted.
Sorry, I lost you for a minute. Just a couple thoughts I had. One was, is there anything you want to give us as a framework for a press release, and then we add, our own things, or should it strictly come, from us? My other thing was, most of our chapters only send 2 girls a year. So how do you make sending 2 girls to camp, seem important?
Yeah, and that's definitely a challenge that I've experienced across working with a lot of the chapters, because there's always power in numbers, and it's hard sometimes to make a media piece out of, okay, well, you're sending 2 girls to summer camp,
Yeah.
So to answer your first question, yes, I actually have a press release template that I can give you that it's very basic, because like at the end of the day, it needs to be tailored toward what your chapter is doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a more basic, this is who Tri-T is, like, come join us, come meet us, that kind of thing. It's much easier to get press attention around a specific call to action. So that might be a fundraising event, like somebody mentioned the golf tournaments, like One thing that I would do with a golf tournament is actually maybe see if one of the girls that is going to camp this year, or a girl that we've sent to camp before, we could feature her story. Even better if it's actually someone who's like in their 20s and is willing to kind of like tell where their life path went after their, 10-year-old experience, because even one story can have an impact. And that's one of the things that we did with, or still do, with the Preeclampsia Foundation, is like, you have that one face that really exemplifies your mission and puts a quality onto what it is that you're doing. So that would be definitely a tactic that I'd recommend for a press release, is identify that one story of a girl who, went to summer camp and fell in love with horseback riding and decided she was going to be a veterinarian or whatever that might be. Or,
Yeah.
or just the girl who went and was like, oh, they nominated me as, as like camp leader for the week, or that sort of thing. Joyce and I were talking before the call about the power that you see when these girls who've never had anyone focus attention on them.
Yep.
And they suddenly have this bevy of 10 to 12 ladies who are just honed in on them. Even that's a powerful story for a young lady to say, for the first time in my life, people cared where I was and what I did and what experiences I had. That's
Thank
a
you.
community story that people want to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
As Lanny, isn't starting maybe with just a sentence or two at the beginning of your release helpful in catching people's attention? Just for
Definitely.
example, if we have two girls that are going, all you need is one girl to say, it's the best week of my life. I just can't believe I got to have the opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
And then the reader will want to say, oh, what is this? And so then you can then you move on to your pitch, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And I love, we as human beings are storytellers. Starting with a story, starting in the middle of a story is actually one way to really like get people to read. So, a young lady saying, I just had the best week of my life. You want to know what made her have the best week? How did she get there? Like, or a statement like, no one ever paid attention to me until this week,
Mm-hmm.
And you
Or I didn't think I could ever do a zip line. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very true. Any other questions? Anybody? Well, I hope you're all working on press releases, because this is the time. Plus, I will also share that one of the things the board was working on this past weekend has to do with focusing on our new members and really celebrating the new members that we welcome into our chapters. And we're going to be doing that by trying to get some responses from new members about who they are and celebrate them in Facebook and Instagram and other places, as well as Tidings and certainly on the website. So you're probably going to see in the next month or so requests for more information. We're going to be sharing more information, and a part of that, aside from celebrating our new members, we're also going to be working on a way to enhance communications between the national boards and chapters, and have an opportunity to ask questions. So sometimes you'll think about the question 5 minutes after we hang up this meeting. Well, you're still going to have an outlet to ask that question of all of us, and we hope that you will. So anything else for Lainey? Lainey is certainly open to hearing from all of you and many others, and be helpful in responding promptly to your requests for assistance, for an editor, a proofreader, whatever you need to be getting the word out about Tri-T.
Well, thank you, ladies, and good luck. And especially as you move into the season where you're starting to get your girls all ready and everything, I hope you just have a wonderful time doing that. It's just such great things. And send me all the pictures because we love to have all of that imagery there for social media and that sort of thing.
Oh, I forgot that. Thank you for reminding me, Lainey. That was the other thing. I knew that there was one more thing I wanted to say, especially to this group, to our historians and our reporters and people that would be gathering the information. We have set aside an email address as a place to send your pictures. So you don't have to think, oh, where do I have to send it or what do I have to do with it? There'll be one email address. You send any camper pictures, just give us an idea of where you are, where the campers are, first names only, and send them to us so that we can be really highlighting our campers in this season as we get into camp season on Facebook and Instagram and other places. So if you have the opportunity to take a picture or maybe a short video, send it along because we want to gather all of that information and be able to share it and encourage one another. Okay, so more on that will be coming your way. Thanks very much, Lainey. Have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you next month, April. Oh my goodness, I wrote down that date. The fourth Tuesday in April, we have another great plans for Let's Connect. So be watching for the announcement of that meeting and who will be presenting and discussing with us. Thanks very much. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Take care.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much, Joyce.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.